Taiwan is under attack, yo. But this time, it's not coming from missiles or bullets or even fists. In fact, it is coming from something that might prove to be even more lethal. Words.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but there will always be something to offend a feminist.
Well, that might have been true up until now, because the power of these words are starting to find me seeing some very unwelcome glances while walking on the streets of Taiwan. And if things keep going this way, it might be only a matter of time before we start seeing some serious anti-American sentiment and protests in the streets. And it is all for one reason. The media is shitting on Trump. But this time it's a little bit different. So today we are going to look at some very interesting examples of how Taiwan Métis is seriously failing at their job, fueling that hate against Trump, and all the while a very interesting group of Taiwanese people are eating it up like 爆米花, which by the way 你可能要准备2碗 because 事情真的很大条咯。我只想什么，我只想什么，别问。So, about 24 hours ago, Trump had his first cabinet meeting live on television for the entire world to see. And then after that, they had a little bit of a Q&A session where some reporter decided to name drop Taiwan and China in the exact same sentence. And in case you haven't figured it out yet, every single time the Orange Man mentions Taiwan, the media completely loses its shit.
Okay. You said, Mr. President, you've been very clear in saying that as long as you're president, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon.
That's true.
Is it also your policy that as long as you're president, China will never take Taiwan by force?
I never comment on that.
Now, when I first saw this, I didn't even give it a second thought. I mean, he always responds this way.
When asked by Time last year if the U.S. should defend Taiwan if China invades, Trump leaned into the long-standing U.S. policy known as strategic ambiguity. I've been asked this question many times and I always refuse to answer it because I don't want to reveal my cards. I wouldn't want to give away any negotiating abilities by giving information like that to any reporter.
But what I did not expect was the onslaught of messages from my friends and fans of articles going completely ballistic over something that he didn't even say. Of course, they followed that up with, 哦，你看，川普就是要 abandon 台湾，我们就是下一批的乌克兰啊！ Everybody panic! Oh my God! 是吗？还是这些媒体的英文真的很不好呢？ Let's watch that clip again and pay special attention to what exactly Trump is saying.
Is it also your policy that as long as you're president, China will never take Taiwan by force?
I never comment on that. I don't comment on anything because I don't want to ever put myself in that position.
So the way the media put it is, Trump refuses to promise to protect Taiwan. 这好像不是他说的哦。My man said very clearly that he doesn't comment on that because he didn't want to put himself in that kind of position. Now to me, this is crystal clear. It's kind of like when你的女朋友或老婆问你，这个女生你觉得很漂亮吗？然后你就回答，I never comment on that because I don't want to put myself in that position. 因为代志大条。You better be careful. Which, if anyone knows, is the smartest answer. Because no matter which way you answer, you are fucked. Because if you answer, 哦，对啊，他其实蛮不错，他身材蛮好啊。所以你是说我很丑吗？那你就跟他交换女朋友吧。And if you answer no, 哦，其实他还好，我觉得没有那么好看呢。你骗人了，明明她很漂亮啊！你就是一个渣男呐，我都不相信你。Needless to say, the best way is to just not comment on it at all. Because that way, your girlfriend doesn't become someone else's girlfriend, or your wife doesn't have you sleeping on the couch.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe! And then there's the most important thing, which the media seems to abuse every single day, context. Because you need to pay close attention to what Trump said after those words.
I never comment on that. I don't comment on anything because I don't want to ever put myself in that position. And if I said it, I certainly wouldn't be saying it to you. I'd be saying it to other people, maybe people around this table, and very specific people around this table. So I don't want to put myself in that position.
So as you can see, it's not that he doesn't want to answer the question, he just doesn't want to tell the reporter what he's thinking. But he's more than happy to tell his cabinet, the people he trusts, what's on his mind. So this has absolutely nothing to do with making or breaking any promise. But still, Taiwan Métis 好像真的很爱落赛耶, claiming that he won't promise to protect Taiwan and he's gonna desert Taiwan, causing panic all over the internet. And as a result, unsuspecting netizens lose their shit and end up with an overflow of resentment for Trump and ultimately America. And if it keeps going on like this, there might be an American flag or two burning up on 凯达格兰大道.
That's to America!
Because when you open up Threads, which happens to be 18% of the platform's entire traffic, where Taiwan ranks #1 in usage, you can already see shit tons of Taiwanese on America. And with Taiwan's 2026 and 2028 elections happening during Trump's term, the more anti-American sentiment Taiwanese have, the more likely they are to elect 市长, 里长, or even 总统, who want to cozy on up to China, sending Formosa down the slippery slope of their votes going towards an authoritarian regime, aka the CCP. And then the next thing you know, Xi Jinping is getting a Nobel Prize for taking Taiwan without even firing a single shot.
Jesus.
那我明明说得很夸张, but as we already know, anything is possible in 2025 and beyond. So that leaves a question. Will the United States defend Taiwan or not? That's a question that Trump is only willing to answer to his cabinet members. So let's look exactly at what his cabinet members have been saying and doing. And once we do that, you just might discover that the Trump administration is one of the most nicest towards Taiwan in America's governing history. 让我们继续看下去。
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration, corporate corruption, World War III escalations, and the chronic disease epidemic, simply because your brain keeps telling you anyone but Trump? If so, you might be struggling from TDS.
Trump derangement syndrome. The struggle is real. And now, in addition to a lot of Americans, Taiwanese are starting to show symptoms as well. And one of these symptoms is a severe decline in English comprehension, translating I'm not gonna comment into I'm not gonna promise. So why don't we take a trip down memory lane and I'll show you exactly what a refusal to promise looks like.
Do you agree, as some do, that our China policy could use a fresh set of eyes? And what's the big deal about having a short phone call with the president of Taiwan?
With respect to China, and let's just take the example of Taiwan, there has been a long-standing agreement, essentially, between China, the United States, and to some degree the Taiwanese, which is to not change the status quo. Taiwan operates differently than mainland China does. China views Taiwan as part of China, but recognizes that it has to approach Taiwan as an entity that has its own ways of doing things. The Taiwanese have agreed that as long as they're able to continue to function with some degree of autonomy, that they won't charge forward and declare independence. And so if you are going to upend this understanding, you have to have thought through what the consequences are, because the Chinese will not treat that the way they'll treat some other issues.
Now, remember what I said earlier about your girlfriend asking you whether or not that girl looks pretty? Well, whereas Trump refuses to comment, Obama is more like, well, there are many different definitions of beauty, as beauty is subjective. It's a very complex question. But I think what's important is that we maintain our relationship, and in addition, not hurt that girl's feelings, while in the process also not allowing you to be offended. And that brings us to an even bigger question. What exactly is beauty really? In fact, what is a woman?
Why are you gay?
And remember, former President Obama was once beloved by Americans and Taiwanese. Tall, handsome, young, half black, much better than Trump, right?
The Obama administration announced it will upgrade Taiwan's F-16 fighter fleet, but it will not sell Taiwan any new planes. Taiwan and its supporters in Congress are disappointed, but the Obama administration is hoping that this is a compromise everyone can live with. Now, in some quarters in Taiwan, the reaction was quite animated.
And then this American president who hoped Taiwan and China would maintain the status quo refused to sell Taiwan key weapons that would help us maintain military parity, even as China's military power kept growing and the status quo was already being broken. This kind of behavior is an exact example of refusing to promise through action.
The Trump administration intends to move forward with plans to sell F-16 fighter jets to Taiwan, news that quickly drew consternation from China. In a statement, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio urged lawmakers in the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to quickly approve the $8 billion sale. A spokesperson for China's foreign ministry responded to the news of the proposed sale, saying China urges the U.S. to fully recognize the highly sensitive and harmful nature of the relevant issue, refrain from selling F-16V fighter jets to Taiwan, and stop arms sales to and military contact with Taiwan. Otherwise, the Chinese side will surely make strong reactions, and the U.S. will have to bear all the consequences.
And then there's this orange nigga who a lot of Taiwanese people seem eager to dislike, who, unlike Obama, was more than willing to answer a phone call from Taiwan's president, and also, unlike Obama, was more than willing to sell Taiwan the weapons they needed. 所以我问你们，这个算是 refusing to promise 吗？
我的天哪！ 啊，你看乌克兰，川普不敢保护他们，他怎么会保护我们台湾人？我们好可怜。
Word? Well, it seems like a lot of people have forgotten the real facts, such as this one.
At a time when nations across the globe are busy fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, China has been exerting military pressure on Taiwan.
Just after China sent a fleet of fighter jets perilously close to Taiwan's airspace last week, China's domestically produced aircraft carrier, the Liaoning, on Sunday traversed the waters off Taiwan's eastern coast.
Analysts say this is more than just the usual Sino-US tensions. China is also trying to send a warning to Taiwan.
Well, this is Liaoning, China's first ever aircraft carrier. A refurbished vessel brought from Ukraine as unfinished ship.
China's first aircraft carrier, the CNS Liaoning, also known as the Type 001 carrier, is a heavily modified version of an Admiral Kuznetsov-class carrier purchased from Ukraine in 1998 in a partially complete form.
Fun fact, once upon a time, Ukraine was part of the former Soviet Union. That was very much pro-China, and they even assisted in China's plans to invade Taiwan by selling weapons that could surround Taiwan, an aircraft carrier, transferring not only the aircraft carrier, but the technology along with it directly to China, directly threatening America's military deployment in the Pacific. And because Trump is seemingly unwilling to help this kind of country, somehow he's the bad guy?
As we prepare to sign something that is extremely important, the National Defense Authorization Act, we're signing it into law. This historic legislation demonstrates our unwavering commitment to our men and women in uniform. This legislation will enhance our readiness, expand our modernize our forces, and help provide our service members with the tools that they need to fight and to win. We will fight and win, but hopefully with this we won't have to fight, because people will not be wanting to fight with us. Together we will send a clear message to our allies and a firm warning to our enemies and adversaries. America is strong, proud, determined, and ready. And I might add, when we're completed, and it won't be that long, we will be stronger than ever before. By a lot.
And then there's the NDAA. Back in 2018, during Trump's first term, he did a complete 180 in foreign policy when it came to Taiwan, not only providing copious amounts of military and financial aid to Taiwan, but also making it possible for American ships to dock at Taiwanese ports. In fact, if it hasn't happened already, I'm sure at some point you're going to see a couple of American ships in Kaohsiung, and that was back in 2018.
Our national security pacing threat remains China and their drive to challenge the world order. A world order is the bedrock of our economic prosperity, has not in any way, shape, or form waned. We cannot afford to project weakness. We must not tolerate China's rising aggression. This bill reinforces our national security priorities while taking care of our service members. For example, the NDAA extends the Pacific Deterrence Initiative and expands prohibitions from DoD contracting with Chinese civil military companies. It retains needed aircraft needed to deter potential Chinese conflict. It also accelerates urgent reform in the Joint Strike Fighter program to drive efficiencies and provide a generational 14.5% pay increase for our military's junior enlisted.
Towards the end of his presidency back in December, Sleepy Joe suddenly woke up and decided to carry on with Trump's tradition by giving Taiwan even more money and even more weapons. And let's keep in mind, I'm only talking about one of 6 total laws that were passed through Trump's legislation to Taiwan's benefit.
A list of exemptions now shows aid to the so-called Taiwan Plan is no longer restricted.
And then just 1 week after Trump decided to rearrange USAID, he approved nearly $1 billion in aid to Taiwan. Not to mention a complete change in terminology on the State Department's website, removing all language showing non-support for Taiwanese independence. And we talked about this before, but in case you missed him or suddenly forgot, every single member of Trump's cabinet hates the CCP in their bones.
Are developing their plans, their stated plans for the reunification of China, either peacefully or militarily. I think our goal needs to be to prevent that from happening.
As DNI, I dramatically increased the intelligence community's resources devoted to China. I assessed that China was far and away our top national security threat.
Countering Beijing's aggression towards Taiwan must remain one of our top priorities in foreign policy here in Washington.
And they are more than happy to enact legislation to support their hate for them. But in spite of all this, Taiwan 的记忆力好像很差 and seems all too eager to dogpile on the shitstorm on Trump because he seemingly refuses to help help Ukraine and has floated, 他都没有动手哦, he has floated the possibility of increasing tariffs on Taiwanese chips.
That's crazy, man.
这个好像有一个同事在老板面前一直在讲你的好话，一直把你泼烂趴, so that way you can actually get a promotion and move up in the company. And then one day, to your surprise, he is arguing behind your back with a colleague who is talking shit about you hardcore. And what does he do? He tells you face to face that from now on, when it comes to business matters, you and I have to be very clear about profit sharing. And your response is to hate his guts. Trump derangement syndrome at its best. I've actually seen a few bailout in the comments saying that if Rubio actually visits Taiwan, it'll be a terrible thing because that will piss off China. 中国会生气呀，那这样子他们可能会对我们动手，所以美国人千万不要来哦。That nigga's tripping. You know what? I take that back about Trump derangement syndrome. This is straight up Stockholm syndrome, yo. 你不要让中国生气，但是这几年中国一直在让我们生气啊。But no, we have to think of the perpetrator's feelings. You know what? In addition to Stockholm syndrome, you're straight up victim blaming yourself. And it is scary as fuck. 代志大条. But that's just me. I want to know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. Keep it civil. That means that you can disagree, but don't be shitting on each other in the comments. And I'm more than sure there's going to be a laundry list of TDS syndrome supporters before this video is even finished. So before you guys 吵架, remember to like, subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side. Peace!